is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Cheney. It is Monday, April 17th. We're going in depth on a number of topics tonight, talking about flooding, about mudslides. Ariel Harrison will join us live from Mountain Green to talk more about the mudslide situation taking place in that area. Daniel Woodruff joining as well. Meteorologist Chase Thomas and the whole gang's here. But before we get there, let's get over to your headlines. Here's what are making headlines today right now. KUTV.com. No court sessions today in the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. This is because one of the prosecutors is dealing with a death in the family. Now, tomorrow, Lori's sister-in-law, Zulema Pastinez, will take the stand. Also making headlines tonight on our website, Sugar House Park, back open to vehicles this afternoon. It closed over the weekend when the pond water overflowed. Water levels rose so high it was spilling onto the roadway. This happened due to a controlled water release from the Mountain Dell Reservoir miles and miles away. Also making headlines, also a very cool video here. I-80 back open in both directions near the Sugar House area. A portion of the roadway was closed over the weekend so crews could replace the old 1300 East Bridge. The bridge will still be closed until Friday while crews finish their work. Finally, in our headlines tonight, you're almost out of time to get those taxes filed with the IRS. The federal tax deadline is tomorrow at midnight. If you can't make that deadline, you should consider filing an extension right now. This year, most taxpayers say their refunds are smaller than previous years. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us by using the hashtag 2NewsLive to get in touch throughout the shows. We appreciate you connecting with us, letting us know what's going on in your community. You can find us also YouTube, Facebook Live. We are streaming everywhere. Time to go in depth now. It'll be at least another few days before family of the homes impacted by a landslide in Morgan County will have any idea if it's safe to go back to their home. Now, teams with the state and county still need to evaluate the properties, but our Ariel Harrison live for us in that area tonight. Ariel, what have you learned about that process today?
It's told we'll have a Utah Geological Survey representative coming out to Mountain Green, meeting a county engineer to evaluate the homes, the land surrounding these two structures that have been deemed unsafe for the time being. It's this home directly behind me that actually had mud slide down into the side of it, putting a lot of pressure on it. So it didn't actually obstruct the property, but they are seeing some floodwaters go through. So they've spent a lot of time and energy today with crews here on scene. You can see these dump trucks that are here transporting and taking that mud away from the home. But just because the second home is in such close proximity to where the mountain came down, it's been deemed unsafe too for the time being, again, till they can get those experts here on scene, which I'm told the earliest that will happen is tomorrow.
Ariel, is there flowing water in the area too, or is it just that heavy mudslide from that really sharp slope there that we see on the side of the screen?
Yeah, good question, Brian. So if you take us back out live and we show you this street, you can see just how rapidly water is coming off of these properties. I had a homeowner who lives below this area come up to us, say they've been dealing with a ton of flooding. The water table is so high, these mountains are saturated, but just knowing that a mudslide happened gives you an idea and perspective just how much water is in these hills. But a lot of it is coming down, lots of water that still needs to melt. So as you can imagine, these homeowners are on edge and concerned about more mudslides happening.
Still just the beginning for some in some areas experiencing that runoff. Ariel, thank you. Speaking of that, all parts of Utah floodwaters, where does that water even go? After all, that water is desperately needed in some of our reservoirs. Of course, the Great Salt Lake, which have hit very low levels over the last couple of years. Daniel Woodruff joining us now for more on this. Daniel, you got some of those answers today.
Yeah, and I'm standing in one of the neighborhoods that flooded last week. This is in Salt Lake City in the Sugar House area. And I'll just give you kind of a scene setter here before I get to your question, where you can see the sandbags that have been prepped just in case there's more flooding. And it actually goes all the way down the street here on 1700 South, right, Dario? Checking my streets with Dario here, my photographer. So anyway, that's one of the areas that's kind of bracing for it. And we've seen a number of parts of Utah that had floodwaters kind of go through it. And so I asked the Utah Department of Natural Resources today, when that floodwater cascades through streets and other areas where it's not welcome, what happens to it? Is it wasted essentially? And the head of the DNR told me no. He says that when the water is moving, it ultimately gets back either through culverts or storm drains that are open, gets back into the rivers, gets back into the lakes. And in this area, in the Wasatch Front, it ultimately goes to the Great Salt Lake, among other places, which is good news again because the Great Salt Lake has dealt with really bad water levels over the last while, which poses an ecological and an economic crisis here in the Wasatch Front area. So that's the short answer is no, it does not get wasted, which I think everyone's happy to hear.
Well, Daniel, you're right with the street, 1700 South. I was standing out there a few days ago, and it looked a little bit different. People were scrambling to pack those sandbags. When you zoomed in, Dario zoomed in just towards those fencing that has now been set up in the waterway, at least where it was spilling over the road. Is it still moving over the road right now, or has it dried up a little bit?
No, so we haven't seen any water actually moving over the road from our vantage points, although I'll say that we haven't been everywhere. But the parts of Sugar House that we visited, all we've seen are sandbags set up, and we've seen blockades put up and some road closed signs. It's dry right now, but people are kind of bracing for what happens tonight or what happens tomorrow because Emigration Creek, which feeds water into this area, is at that flood advisory or whatever it's at right now. I'm not exactly sure, but the urgency of flooding is high here as people have put up sandbags, a lot of volunteers trying to brace against that possibility.
Daniel Woodruff live for us in Salt Lake City. Daniel, as always, thank you so much. Earlier today, I was in Big Cottonwood Canyon. The creek there is moving pretty fast. The flows really aren't at that level that emergency personnel are predicting they will be at this point, but they want you to avoid the water at all costs, especially if you have young children or pets with you. Late last week, some messaging from Department of Natural Resources and Unified Fire Authority on swift water safety.
Get out and have fun in the outdoors. Enjoy this beautiful weather that we're about to see, but stay away from these raging creeks and rivers, especially as this runoff, this record runoff, continues to come down. If you happen to fall into the water, it's likely going to sweep you away, and that's the types of tragedies we're trying to avoid. And right now, you know, Big Cottonwood Creek here is not really flowing at a level that we would normally look at as dangerous. It could certainly sweep a child away. An adult might be able to survive falling in. But this is the lowest we're going to see this creek for quite some time. Over the next several weeks and probably the next couple of months, the snowpack is going to melt and is going to make these rivers and streams record level in terms of the flow. So very fast water, high volume of water, and also really cold conditions. So keep children and pets away from these areas that have rivers and streams. Don't take chances and stay away from the temptation to try and cross these streams and rivers because if you make one misstep and fall in, you could lose your life.
It's going to be catastrophic if somebody falls into the water. The likelihood of a rescue when we're responding is going to be pretty minimal just because of the temperatures, the velocity, and the issues that'll bring with that. So that is our concern, and that's the message, is to just stay away from the water during the runoffs this spring and early summer. There'll be plenty of time later in the summer to go recreate around those waterways when it's safer.
Well, some good advice there. And
Yep.
Look at the water moving here, Weber Canyon tonight from that power plant angle from UDOT. I was up here early this weekend, and you've been in the area as well. I mean, when you drive by there, that water is just roaring.
So, of course, a lot of this is snow melt, but this is actually coming from Pineview, and they are releasing the water before we actually see a lot of that snow melt because those peaks right around that area, they haven't even started their snow melt process quite yet.
I'm not surprised. Having been at Snow Basin this weekend, I think we showed you some of the video of the pond skim. There was so much snow up there still. I mean, there's just so much snow, such a stacked base in some of these areas,
It's
even in
take.
Big Cottonwood when we were up there today.
Yeah, the Cottonwood Canyons, I mean, that is as high as you get, as deep as you get, and it's going to take so much time for that snow to really melt.
I know I post-holed one of them and went down about up to here
Yep.
in the snow, had to get a helping hand out. So be careful out there, from me to you. That's from me to everybody at this point.
But this is still early, and it's still roaring right now, and that's going to be the big story going forward.
Well, of course, we want to see any of your flooding photos, your videos, want to see what's going on in your area. People all over the state are really going to be dealing with this at some point. So please continue sharing your photos with us. These are just a few that we've gotten. Obviously, you can see some meadows, some pasture areas that are flooded, creeks and streams that are overflowing, river areas. If you see something that catches your eye, a great video like this, send it your way and send it our way.
Though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really
cold.
worth taking the photo
Right.
for risking your life. And that's the message here, right? Yep. Keep a safe distance. So share your photos with us through Chime In on our 2 News app or KUTV.com. You make a good point, though. You see something like this, you have your warning in place. It doesn't mean drive to that area to take pictures.
Don't be a looky-loo.
We're going to do
photos.
it for you. Trust me.
Right.
I was actually up here earlier this week talking with residents in the areas.
Residents live there.
And they prefer
take
you
a photo
not
for
being
us.
up there
Right.
just to go take a picture and look. We were up there talking with them, putting together some news coverage for all of you, but they've been preparing in Emigration Canyon for this a lot.
And again, this is just the low elevation snow melt. Can't stress that enough. A lot of folks think, oh, hey, this is it. No, we're not even close. We've melted less than 10% of our snowpack, so we still have more than 90% left. Flood advisory. Now, the good news, we're watching those levels, and they are beginning to climb right now, but they're still below flood stage. Now, the forecast is for Emigration Creek to hit flood stage just above that later tonight, and maybe again for tomorrow night. So that's why we have that flood advisory down Emigration Canyon, and then Emigration Creek goes through the Sugar House area.
It's interesting, out of all of the creeks and all of the areas, this is the one that we've been watching too.
Because it's low elevation.
That's
Right.
exactly why.
Because we still have City Creek left, and we still have the other major rivers and creeks. But again, this is a low elevation kind of creek bed, if you will.
I love the education here.
Yep.
So at some point, it'll be likely that we see some of those.
This will
other
go
creeks
away,
streams.
and then we're going to look at the other rivers and streams that are coming down as well. Yep.
Great.
Including the Cottonwood Canyons.
All right.
All right, let's get to your forecast. Talking about that snow water equivalent, of course, broke every single record. 30 inches of snow water equivalent for the entire state. That's how much water's in the snowpack. We peaked April 7th. Today, that snow water equivalent is at 27.5 inches. So again, we've only melted 2.5 inches of that SWE. As we shorten it just a bit, that means we have plenty of snow left to melt, and we're in uncharted territories. We don't know what's going to happen. We're an outlier with this record year. So what we want is a nice gradual warm up to prevent the widespread flooding. So normal is low 60s. We want to keep those temperatures near normal. Today above normal by about 10 degrees, low 70s up and down the Wasatch Front. At least it's not the 80s quite yet. 82 though down in St. George, temperatures in the low 60s in southwestern Wyoming. And then we're going to slow down that snow melt because of this storm system right here. We got some cooler air that's going to move in, a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow. Ahead of it, we got the cloud cover and even a couple light showers developing in northwestern Utah. It'll be all snow in the mountains, especially above 6,500 feet. That's where we expect some accumulating snowfall. Those peaks, though, could get close to a foot of snow. Generally, I think at some of those ski resorts, though, 6 to 12 inches in northern Utah. And primarily seeing that precipitation in northern Utah. The southern half of the state stays dry, but it stays windy for tomorrow. Those winds really crank out of the southwest. We do have a wind advisory for some of our valleys out in eastern Utah. Could see gusts closer to 50 miles per hour. But look at the snow moving into Elko. We'll see valley rain and mountain snow later in the morning and throughout the lunch hour here in northern Utah. And those snow levels will come down a little bit, though. Maybe the benches, seeing a few snowflakes mixing in, but nothing accumulating. This will linger throughout the afternoon and evening, and then I think we'll see some improving conditions by Tuesday night. Wednesday, kind of an in-between day, chilly out there. Those temperatures drop more than 20 degrees, so we'll be dealing with that cooler air mass for the rest of the week. And then another little system kind of slides into northern Utah with a few more snow showers, and that might be our best chance to see a little bit of light snow here in the valleys. It looks cold this week, at least for this time of year. St. George 75 tomorrow, goes to 65 on Wednesday, 68 on Thursday. Lots of wind every single day in your forecast, especially overnight, Wednesday night and Thursday night. Those winds hopefully will relax a little by the weekend. Sunday, 80 degrees, so we do rebound just a bit in southern Utah. Salt Lake will have a little bit of rain tomorrow, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, 54 degrees, 50 and dry on Wednesday, rain and snow showers Thursday, 49 for a high temperature. So yes, the rest of the week is a little on the cool side, and then by the weekend our temperatures are rebounding. We'll be in the mid-50s on Saturday and Sunday, 66. Look at early next week into the 70s. So again, it's key. I mention it every single day because we're talking about flooding every single day. We want to keep those temperatures near normal,
and this
not too warm.
And even below normal at this point, right? This is that gradual warm up we've been hoping for.
It's okay. I mean, when we look at 1983, we saw a very cool April and May with those temperatures below normal. So, you thought you were being fine, but if you stay cool too long, then it's a lot easier to flip that switch and then just see 80s and 90s for several days.
And that was mid to late May.
Late May is when they had 7 days in the 80s.
So things are very different at this point of where we stand.
It's still April right now. Well, but we still have, 4-6 weeks left to really see what happens to that snowmelt.
Thank you, Chase. Remember to download our 2 News weather app to know about changes in your neighborhood. You can get updated forecasts and live radar right to your phone. The app is free to download. It is pretty easy to use. Let's bring in Christina Flores now, because we're keeping an eye on your money during our flood watch this season. Farmers all over the state bracing for flooding. They're already dealing with soggy fields, and that puts some crops in jeopardy. Christina, what are you looking into tonight for KUTV2 News at 10 o'clock?
Well, I visited a few farms in northern Utah in Weber County, and what I saw is that there are a lot of, at the very least, soggy fields. Some of them are actually underwater and fully flooded. So what that means, of course, it's problems for farmers. At this point, there are several crops that are very, very late. And so that puts into question the harvest for this summer.
So what are those crops? Because
Okay.
that's what people want to know.
So the biggest one that is in jeopardy right now is onions. The farmers that I visited said that they were 4 weeks late. They'd not even been able to plant seed because, as you can see here, you can't plant seed in this type of environment when it's flooded with water. Onions need a more arid soil. So they have not been able to plant seed for onions. It's about 4 weeks late at this point, 5 weeks after this week. So that means that there will definitely be a diminished crop for sure, and definitely a late crop as well.
So for somebody, obviously you're always keeping an eye on the money for us, right?
Yeah.
Does this mean more expensive? Does this mean hard to find for some crops?
Yeah, so the farmers say for sure everyone should expect a more diminished crop of onions. So you'll see fewer onions in the grocery store. Also sweet corn, that's going to be late too, the Farm Bureau tells us. So typically, you see a smaller supply that normally leads to higher prices. So although the farmers say they don't know what's going to happen with prices, then they're trying to keep their prices down at the farmers markets and local grocery stores. It's hard to know where everything will end up, because don't forget, farms in California are underwater too, and in other parts of the West. So it's not just Utah that's dealing with this. The onion and crops all over the western United States are right now, flooded, underwater, so they're in trouble.
Find a way to shop local, maybe alter the at-home menu a bit and try something new. Maybe a good time to do that so you can still support your local farmers.
Yeah, do some canning.
There you go.
You know how to do it.
That's right. Are you going to teach us that tomorrow?
I got to find out how to do it myself.
All
I've
right,
never done it.
That's a project for you, Christina.
Yeah,
We're gonna make
for
sure you
sure.
come back to us here on 2 News Live to teach us all about canning.
Okay, I'll
Thank
try.
Your salsa, though.
Salsa.
And yeah, maybe some salsa.
Geez, that's a good point.
Yes, very good. Okay, that I can do.
Okay, so
That
we'll
I
have a
can do.
salsa lesson, dancing and the actual
Salsa
canning.
dancing and the
There you
can
go.
you eat. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Christina. Of course, we want to hear from you. What have you done to prepare for potential flooding at your home? You can scan the QR code on your screen to weigh in. Right now, the majority of you say you've done nothing so far. That's surprising to me after all of the coverage that we've done here at KUTV2 News. 9% say put down sandbags. I witnessed some of you doing that in Immigration Canyon last week. At least 23% of you cleaning out the gutters, just a few cleaning out the basement. But reminder, grab the phone right now, scan that to weigh in. Let's take a look at what is trending on our website right now, KUTV.com. Of course, something that Daniel Woodruff was just talking about. When it floods in Utah, is that water wasted? He was able to give us a lot of those answers just a few moments ago. And then Ariel Harrison talking about our top trending story right now. Mountain Green residents forced to remove belongings as mudslide slowly engulfs home. Check out that story right now on our website, KUTV.com. And a story that I brought you on our website earlier today. It's not the most positive, is a little difficult to stomach for some, but 2 first responders from Emery County were killed in a 4-wheeling crash, a fiery crash, you could say, outside of Green River yesterday. A firefighter and an EMT, both giving, of course, their lives to assist in that community, one of them also serving in the military. So please be sure to check out all of the articles, not just in our trending section, but all of our local articles that you can ensure are from your local journalists. Remember, all these stories are on the KUTV mobile app, which you can download on your Apple App Store or Google Play. It is pretty easy to find. Just check it out. Just in time for National Park Week, I just saw this earlier on 2 News at 4. Google Maps rolling out a new feature to help you explore. I love exploring. You love exploring.
And we love our national parks.
We love our national parks, and we use technology to typically get there and do stuff. Not as much on the paper maps. The company says its updated app will generally help you navigate your way around the park now that you're visiting. Very different, and they'll assist you in discovering things to do and to see. You can be able to find new things to enjoy just at your fingertips, basically.
That's great news. You can access trail routes and walking and cycling directions. The updated app will also let you download a park map where you can use even without internet access. Entrance fees to all national parks will be waived on Saturday, the first day of National Park Week. That'll be really helpful. I use that a little bit. I also use All Trails, which of course we all use for finding some of those hidden gems around our state.
Yes, are they so hidden anymore? It's hard to tell.
Because of Instagram, everybody sees them.
Well, the thing that's interesting about that, without the internet access, right? Without the reception. So
and
maybe
a lot of those spots don't have internet access.
You can download, and maybe you could pre-plan a little bit better, so that way you're, ultimately going in the right direction.
And check the forecast. Avoid those slot canyons. If there's rain, you know the drill.
Of course. Yep. Well, that'll do it for us here on 2 News Live. Before we go, to all of our friends and colleagues at ABC4 here in town, wishing you all the best as going through a difficult time with the loss of Tracy Smith, a longtime talented photojournalist, always very kind, worked here at KUTV2 News, so we're thinking about you. We're with you every day, Monday through Friday at 5:30. Hope you join us again for more in-depth conversations on the topics that impact you and your family. Chase Thomason, I'm Brian Schnee. Have a great Monday. We're back tomorrow. See ya.